In a quiet, picturesque countryside village, there lived a man named John. At 71 years old, John was a figure of admiration in his community. He was known for his disciplined lifestyle, his love for nature, and his unwavering dedication to his family. Despite his age, John exuded a vitality that many younger people envied. His days were filled with simple joys, tending to his small garden, playing with his grandchildren, and enjoying the peaceful rhythm of rural life. John's garden was his pride and joy. It was a modest plot of land behind his house, but to him, it was a sanctuary. Rows of fresh vegetables, vibrant flowers, and neatly trimmed hedges reflected his meticulous care and love for the earth. Every morning, without fail, John would rise early, even before the sun, to tend to his plants. He believed that the garden was not just a source of food, but also a place where he could find peace and purpose. "This garden keeps me alive," he would often say to his grandchildren, who loved to help him water the plants and pick fresh vegetables. John's family adored him. His wife, Mary, was his lifelong companion, and together they had built a life filled with love and resilience. Their son, David, and his wife, Sarah, lived with them, along with their two young children, Emma and Noah. The grandchildren were particularly attached to John, calling him their super grandpa because of his seemingly boundless energy and strength. He would often lift them onto his shoulders, tell them stories about his youth, and teach them the value of hard work and patience through gardening. Despite his age, John prided himself on his independence. He refused to let anyone help him with his daily tasks, insisting that he was still strong and capable. "I've been working hard all my life," he would say with a smile. "A little gardening won't hurt me." His family admired his determination but often worried about his health. Mary, in particular, would gently remind him to take it easy. But John would always brush off her concerns. "I'm as strong as an ox," he would joke, flexing his arms to make his grandchildren laugh. However, there were subtle signs that John's health was not as robust as he believed. Occasionally, he would feel lightheaded when standing up too quickly or experience shortness of breath after working in the garden for too long. These moments were fleeting, and John dismissed them as minor inconveniences. "It's just old age," he would say, waving away any suggestion of seeing a doctor. His family, though concerned, respected his wishes and hoped that he would slow down on his own. One fateful morning, the peaceful routine of John's life was shattered. It was a beautiful day, with the sun casting a golden glow over the village. As usual, John woke up before everyone else, eager to start his day. He felt a little more tired than usual, but attributed it to a restless night. Ignoring the slight discomfort, he put on his gardening gloves and headed out to his beloved garden. The air was crisp, and the birds were chirping as John began his work. He bent down to pull out some weeds, his hands moving with the practiced ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. But as he straightened up, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. His vision blurred and his heart raced. Before he could call out for help, his legs gave way, and he collapsed onto the soft earth of his garden. Inside the house, Mary was preparing breakfast when she realized that John had been outside for longer than usual. She called out to him but received no response. Worried, she stepped outside and saw him lying motionless among the rows of vegetables. Panic surged through her as she ran to his side, calling his name and shaking him gently. "John, John, can you hear me?" she cried, her voice trembling with fear. David and Sarah, hearing Mary's cries, rushed out to the garden. Together, they carried John into the house and immediately called for an ambulance. The minutes felt like hours as they waited, their hearts heavy with dread. When the paramedics arrived, they worked quickly to stabilize John, but the look on their faces told the family that the situation was dire. At the hospital, the doctor delivered the devastating news. John had suffered a severe stroke caused by a sudden rupture of a blood vessel in his brain. Despite the medical team's best efforts, he passed away later that day. The family was left in shock and grief, struggling to comprehend how someone so full of life could be taken from them so suddenly. John's death was a profound loss, not just for his family but for the entire community. He had been a symbol of strength, resilience, and love, and his absence left a void that could never be filled. For Mary, the pain was almost unbearable. She had lost her partner of over 50 years, the man who had been her rock through every challenge life had thrown at them. For Emma and Noah, the loss of their super grandpa was their first encounter with the fragility of life, a lesson they were too young to fully understand. As the family gathered to mourn and remember John, they couldn't help but reflect on the subtle warning signs they had overlooked. His occasional dizziness, his insistence on working too hard, and his reluctance to rest, all of these had been clues that his body was struggling. They realized that while John had always been strong in spirit, his physical health had been quietly deteriorating. This tragic event became a turning point for the family. They vowed to honor John's memory by taking better care of themselves and each other. They began to pay closer attention to their own health and encouraged Mary to adopt a more relaxed routine. The garden, once John's sanctuary, became a place of remembrance and healing for the family. Together they tended to it, finding solace in the act of nurturing life, just as John had done. John's story is a poignant reminder of the importance of listening to our bodies and recognizing our limits, especially as we age. It also highlights the need for families to support and care for their elderly loved ones, encouraging them to prioritize their health and well-being. While John's passing was a heartbreaking loss, his life and legacy continue to inspire those who knew him to live with love, purpose, and mindfulness. John's life was a tapestry woven with hard work, resilience, and love. As his family sat together in the days following his passing, they found themselves reflecting on the man he had been, the life he had lived, and the lessons he had left behind. His story was not just one of a man who worked tirelessly for his family, but also of someone who found joy in the simplest things and taught those around him the value of perseverance and gratitude. John was born into a modest family in the countryside, where life was anything but easy. His parents were farmers who worked from dawn until dusk to provide for their children. From a young age, John learned the value of hard work. He would wake up early to help his father in the fields before heading to school, and in the evenings, he would assist his mother with household chores. Life was simple, but it was also filled with challenges. As a teenager, John often had to sacrifice his own dreams to support his family. When his father fell ill, John took on the responsibility of managing the farm. He worked tirelessly, often skipping meals and sleep to ensure that the crops were harvested on time. Despite the physical toll, John never complained. He believed that his efforts were necessary to keep his family afloat. Hard work never killed anyone, he would often say, a mantra that stayed with him throughout his life. Though his youth was marked by hardship, it was also during this time that John developed his unshakable sense of resilience. He learned to face adversity with a calm determination, a trait that would define him as an adult. His ability to find strength in difficult times became a source of inspiration for those around him, especially his family. In his early 20s, John met Mary, the woman who would become his lifelong partner. Mary was a school teacher in the village, known for her kind heart and gentle demeanor. The two quickly fell in love, drawn to each other by their shared values of hard work and family. They married in a small ceremony, surrounded by friends and loved ones, and began building a life together. John and Mary's early years of marriage were not without struggle. They lived in a small, one-room house and often had to stretch their limited resources to make ends meet. John worked multiple jobs, from farming to carpentry, while Mary continued teaching. Despite the challenges, they were happy. Their love for each other and their shared dreams of a better future kept them going. When their son David was born, John's sense of purpose deepened. He was determined to provide his son with opportunities that he himself had never had. He worked harder than ever, often taking on extra shifts and side jobs to save money for David's education. "I want him to have choices," John would say. "I want him to live a life where he doesn't have to struggle like I did." As the years passed, John's hard work began to pay off. The family moved into a larger house, and David excelled in school, eventually earning a scholarship to a prestigious university. John was immensely proud of his son's achievements, but he never took credit for them. "It's all him," he would say with a smile. "I just gave him the tools." After retiring, John finally had the time to focus on the things he loved most, his family and his garden. The garden became his sanctuary, a place where he could lose himself in the rhythm of planting, watering, and harvesting. It was here that he felt most at peace, surrounded by the fruits of his labor and the beauty of nature. John's garden was more than just a hobby, it was a reflection of his character. Every row of vegetables was planted with care, every flower bed meticulously arranged. He took pride in his work, not because he sought recognition, but because it brought him joy. "There's something magical about watching things grow," he would tell his grandchildren. "It reminds you that life is full of possibilities." His grandchildren, Emma and Noah, loved spending time in the garden with him. John would teach them how to plant seeds, pull weeds, and water the plants. He would tell them stories about his childhood, using the garden as a metaphor for life. "You see this tomato plant," he once said to Emma. "It started as a tiny seed, but with care and patience, it grew into something strong and beautiful. That's how life works too." For John, the garden was also a way to stay connected to his roots. It reminded him of his parents and the lessons they had taught him about hard work and gratitude. It was a place where he could reflect on his life and feel a sense of accomplishment. "This garden is my legacy," he once told Mary. It's a reminder that even the smallest efforts can create something meaningful. Despite his love for life and his family, John was not invincible. As he grew older, his body began to show signs of wear and tear. He would occasionally feel dizzy when standing up too quickly or experience shortness of breath after working in the garden for too long. These moments were brief, and John dismissed them as minor inconveniences. "It's just old age," he would say, brushing off Mary's concerns. Mary often urged him to take it easy, to let David or Sarah help with the heavier tasks in the garden. But John was stubborn. He prided himself on his independence and didn't want to burden anyone. "I've been doing this my whole life," he would say. "I don't need help now." Looking back, the family realized that these subtle signs were warnings that John's body was struggling. His insistence on pushing himself, combined with his reluctance to rest, had taken a toll on his health. They wished they had been more persistent in encouraging him to slow down, but John's determination to live life on his own terms made it difficult. As the family reflected on John's life, they found comfort in the legacy he had left behind. He had taught them the value of hard work, the importance of family, and the joy of finding beauty in the simple things. His life was a testament to the power of resilience and the strength of the human spirit. John's story was not just about a man who worked tirelessly for his family. It was about a man who lived with purpose and love. He had faced every challenge with courage and had found joy in the journey. Though his passing was a heartbreaking loss, his life continued to inspire those who knew him to live with gratitude and mindfulness. As Mary looked out at the garden that John had so lovingly tended, she felt a sense of peace. "He's still here," she thought. "In every flower, every vegetable, and every memory, he's still with us." The morning of John's collapse began like any other. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden light over the village. The air was crisp, and the birds were chirping their morning songs. John, as always, was the first to wake up in the house. He had always been an early riser, a habit ingrained in him from his youth, when the demands of farm life required him to greet the day before the sun. That morning, however, something felt different. John woke up feeling more tired than usual. His body felt heavy, and there was a faint ache in his chest. He dismissed it as nothing more than the lingering effects of a restless night. "I'll feel better once I get moving," he thought to himself. Ignoring the discomfort, he got out of bed, put on his gardening clothes, and headed outside to his beloved garden. The garden was his sanctuary, a place where he felt most alive. The rows of vegetables and flowers were thriving under his care, and he took pride in every leaf and bloom. That morning, he planned to weed the vegetable patch and water the plants before the sun got too hot. As he bent down to pull out a stubborn weed, he felt a sudden wave of dizziness. His vision blurred, and his heart began to race. He paused for a moment, gripping the edge of the garden bed for support. "It's nothing," he told himself. "Just a little lightheadedness. I'll be fine." But the dizziness didn't pass. Instead, it grew worse. John tried to straighten up, but his legs felt weak, as if they could no longer support him. His breathing became shallow, and a sharp pain shot through his chest. Panic began to set in as he realized something was seriously wrong. He tried to call out for help, but his voice was barely a whisper. Before he could take another step, his legs gave way, and he collapsed onto the soft earth of the garden. Inside the house, Mary was in the kitchen preparing breakfast. She glanced at the clock and noticed that John had been outside for longer than usual. Normally, he would have come back in by now to have his morning tea. A sense of unease crept over her. She called out to him through the open window, but there was no response. Concerned, she wiped her hands on a towel and stepped outside to check on him. What she saw made her heart stop. John was lying motionless in the garden, his face pale and his body limp. "John," she screamed, running to his side. She knelt down beside him, shaking him gently. "John, wake up. Can you hear me?" Her voice trembled with fear as she tried to rouse him, but he didn't respond. Tears streamed down her face as she called for help. Hearing Mary's cries, David and Sarah rushed out of the house. The sight of John lying on the ground sent a jolt of panic through them. Together, they carried him into the house and laid him on the couch. David immediately called for an ambulance, his hand shaking as he dialed the number. "Please hurry," he pleaded with the operator. "It's my father. He's not breathing properly." The minutes that followed felt like an eternity. Mary held John's hand, whispering prayers and begging him to stay with her. Emma and Noah, too young to fully understand what was happening, stood in the corner, their eyes wide with fear. "What's wrong with Grandpa?" Emma asked, her voice barely audible. Sarah knelt down beside them, trying to comfort them while holding back her own tears. "Grandpa's not feeling well," she said softly, "but the doctors are coming to help him." When the paramedics arrived, they quickly assessed John's condition. Their faces were grim as they worked to stabilize him. They loaded him onto a stretcher and rushed him to the hospital, with Mary and David following close behind in the car. The drive to the hospital was silent, except for Mary's quiet sobs. David gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white, as he tried to stay composed for his mother's sake. At the hospital, the family was ushered into a waiting room while the doctors worked to save John. The minutes stretched into hours as they sat in anxious silence, clinging to the hope that he would pull through. Finally, a doctor entered the room, his expression somber. Mary stood up, her heart pounding. "How is he?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor took a deep breath before delivering the news. "I'm so sorry," he said. "John suffered a severe stroke caused by a rupture in a blood vessel in his brain. We did everything we could, but the damage was too extensive. He passed away a short while ago." The words hit Mary like a physical blow. Her legs gave way, and she sank into a chair, her body shaking with sobs. David wrapped his arms around her, his own tears streaming down his face. Sarah held the children close, trying to shield them from the full weight of the tragedy. Emma and Noah, sensing the gravity of the situation, began to cry as well. "Is Grandpa gone?" Noah asked, his voice trembling. Sarah nodded, unable to find the words to explain. The loss of John was a devastating blow to the family. He had been their rock, their source of strength and wisdom. His absence left a void that could never be filled. For Mary, the pain was almost unbearable. She had lost her partner of over 50 years, the man who had been by her side through every joy and sorrow. For David, it was the loss of a father who had taught him everything he knew about life. And for Emma and Noah, it was the loss of their beloved super grandpa, the man who had filled their days with laughter and love. In the days that followed, the family struggled to come to terms with their grief. They found themselves replaying the events of that morning, wondering if there was something they could have done differently. They thought about the subtle warning signs they had overlooked: John's occasional dizziness, his insistence on working too hard, his reluctance to rest. They realized that while John had always been strong in spirit, his body had been quietly signaling that it needed care. The garden, once a place of joy and life, now felt like a place of sorrow. Mary couldn't bring herself to step outside, unable to face the sight of the spot where John had collapsed. But as the days turned into weeks, the family began to find solace in the memories of John and the lessons he had taught them. They decided to honor his memory by continuing to care for the garden, turning it into a living tribute to the man who had loved it so deeply. John's passing was a heartbreaking loss, but it also served as a wake-up call for the family. They realized the importance of paying attention to their health and supporting one another in making better choices. They vowed to take better care of themselves and to cherish the time they had together, knowing how fragile life could be. Though John was no longer with them, his spirit lived on in the garden he had nurtured, in the values he had instilled in his family, and in the love he had given so freely. His life, though cut short, was a testament to the power of resilience, love, and the simple joys of living. In the wake of John's passing, his family found themselves reflecting on the habits and routines that had defined his life. While John had always been a man of discipline and hard work, his determination to maintain his independence and his reluctance to slow down had ultimately taken a toll on his health. As they pieced together the events leading up to his collapse, they began to recognize the subtle but dangerous habits that had contributed to his untimely death. These habits, though seemingly harmless, were common among many elderly individuals and served as a stark reminder of the importance of listening to one's body and making mindful choices. 1. Overexerting the body on an empty stomach. One of John's most consistent habits was starting his day with physical activity, often before eating breakfast. He would wake up early, head straight to the garden, and begin his work. While this routine had been manageable in his younger years, It became increasingly risky as he aged. The family realized that John's habit of exerting himself on an empty stomach had likely played a significant role in his collapse. The risks of overexertion on an empty stomach. When the body wakes up after a night of fasting, blood sugar levels are naturally low. For elderly individuals, this can lead to a lack of energy and an increased risk of dizziness, fainting, or even cardiac events. Engaging in strenuous physical activity without first replenishing the body's energy stores can place undue stress on the heart and other vital organs. In John's case, his early morning gardening sessions, combined with his age and underlying health issues, created a dangerous situation. On the morning of his collapse, John had skipped breakfast, as he often did, and headed straight to the garden. The physical effort of bending, pulling weeds, and watering plants, combined with his low blood sugar levels, likely triggered the dizziness and weakness that led to his fall. His body simply didn't have the energy reserves to sustain the activity. The family learned the importance of starting the day with proper nourishment, especially for elderly individuals. They began encouraging Mary to eat a light but nutritious breakfast before engaging in any physical activity. Foods like oatmeal, fruit, or whole grain toast provided the energy needed to support her morning routine without overloading her digestive system. Always eat a small, balanced meal before engaging in physical activity, even if it's something as simple as gardening or walking. Include a mix of carbohydrates, protein, and healthy fats to provide sustained energy. For those who struggle with eating early in the morning, a small snack like a banana or a handful of nuts can be a good alternative. 2. Standing up too quickly after waking. Another habit that the family identified as potentially dangerous was John's tendency to jump out of bed and immediately start his day. He had always been a man of action, eager to get to work as soon as possible. However, as he aged, this habit became increasingly risky. The family recalled several instances when John had felt lightheaded or dizzy after standing up too quickly, but he had always dismissed these episodes as minor inconveniences. The risks of standing up too quickly. When a person transitions from lying down to standing, blood pressure can temporarily drop, a condition known as orthostatic hypotension. This is especially common in older adults, whose circulatory systems may not adjust as quickly to changes in position. The sudden drop in blood pressure can cause dizziness, fainting, or even falls, which can lead to serious injuries. John's habit of getting out of bed quickly, combined with his reluctance to acknowledge his body's warning signs, likely contributed to the dizziness he experienced on the morning of his collapse. While he had managed to recover from similar episodes in the past, this time his body was unable to compensate, leading to a catastrophic outcome. The family realized the importance of taking a more gradual approach to waking up and starting the day. They began encouraging Mary to adopt a slower, more deliberate routine, allowing her body time to adjust to being upright. After waking, spend a few minutes lying in bed, stretching gently to stimulate circulation. Sit up slowly and remain seated on the edge of the bed for a minute or two before standing. If dizziness or lightheadedness persists, consult a doctor to rule out underlying health issues. 3. Straining too hard during morning bathroom routines. One of the most surprising realizations for the family was the potential danger of straining during morning bathroom routines. While this was not something they had directly associated with John's collapse, they later learned from the doctor that excessive straining could significantly increase the risk of stroke or heart attack, particularly in older adults. Straining during bowel movements can cause a sudden increase in blood pressure and intracranial pressure, which can lead to a rupture of blood vessels in the brain or heart. This is especially dangerous for individuals with pre-existing conditions such as high blood pressure or atherosclerosis. The act of holding one's breath while straining, known as the Valsalva maneuver, further exacerbates the risk by reducing blood flow to the heart. While the family couldn't be certain, they suspected that John's morning routine may have included moments of straining, particularly as he had occasionally mentioned feeling constipated. Combined with his other habits, this could have contributed to the stress on his cardiovascular system. The family learned the importance of maintaining healthy digestion and avoiding unnecessary strain during bathroom routines. They began encouraging each other to adopt dietary and lifestyle changes that supported regular bowel movements and reduced the risk of constipation. Stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water throughout the day. Include fiber-rich foods in your diet such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Engage in regular physical activity to promote healthy digestion. If constipation persists, consult a doctor for safe and effective treatment options. John's passing was a heartbreaking loss, but it also served as a wake-up call for his family. They realized that while John had always been strong in spirit, his body had been quietly signaling its need for care and attention. His habits, though rooted in a lifetime of hard work and discipline, had become dangerous as he aged. By reflecting on these habits, the family was able to identify practical steps to protect their own health and well-being. 1. The importance of listening to your body. John's story underscored the importance of paying attention to the body's warning signs. Dizziness, fatigue, and other symptoms should never be ignored, especially in older adults. The family resolved to be more mindful of their own health and to encourage each other to seek medical advice when needed. 2. The value of preventive care. The family recognized the importance of regular checkups and screenings to identify potential health issues before they became serious. They encouraged Mary to schedule routine visits with her doctor and began prioritizing their own preventive care as well. 3. The power of small changes. While John's habits had been deeply ingrained, the family realized that small changes could have made a big difference in his health. By adopting simple practices like eating breakfast, waking up slowly, and staying hydrated, they could reduce their own risk of similar health issues. In the months following John's passing, the family worked to honor his memory by making positive changes in their own lives. They began starting their mornings with a family breakfast, a time to connect and nourish their bodies. Mary adopted a slower, more mindful routine, taking time to stretch and enjoy her tea before heading outside. The garden, once a place of sorrow, became a symbol of renewal and growth as the family worked together to care for it. John's story became a reminder to everyone who knew him of the importance of health, family, and the simple joys of life. While his passing was a profound loss, the lessons he left behind continued to inspire those he loved to live with greater awareness and gratitude. The loss of John was a devastating blow to his family, but it also became a turning point in their lives. In the days and weeks following his passing, the family found themselves reflecting not only on the man he had been but also on the changes they needed to make in their own lives. John's death was a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of prioritizing health, family, and mindfulness. Slowly, they began to transform their routines, their relationships, and their outlook on life, using John's memory as a guiding light. One of the most significant changes the family made was their approach to health. John's passing had highlighted the dangers of ignoring warning signs and the importance of preventive care. The family realized that they had often taken their own health for granted, assuming that they would always have time to address issues later. But John's sudden collapse served as a wake-up call, showing them that neglecting their health could have irreversible consequences. For Mary, the loss of her husband was particularly difficult. After more than 50 years of marriage, she found herself navigating life without her partner. In the beginning, she struggled with feelings of guilt, wondering if she could have done more to encourage John to take better care of himself. But with the support of her family, she began to focus on her own well-being. Mary started attending regular checkups with her doctor, something she had often neglected in the past. She also made small but meaningful changes to her daily routine. She began eating a healthy breakfast every morning, taking short walks around the garden, and practicing gentle stretches to improve her circulation. These changes not only improved her physical health, but also gave her a sense of purpose and routine in the wake of her loss. John's son, David, and his wife, Sarah, also took the lessons of his passing to heart. As busy parents juggling work and family responsibilities, they had often put their own health on the back burner. But after John's death, they realized the importance of setting a good example for their children and taking proactive steps to care for themselves. David began exercising regularly, something he had always told himself he didn't have time for. He started going for morning runs and even signed up for a local fitness class. Sarah, who had struggled with stress and fatigue, began prioritizing self-care, incorporating yoga and meditation into her routine. Together, they made a commitment to eat healthier meals as a family, reducing processed foods and incorporating more fresh fruits and vegetables into their diet. For Emma and Noah, John's grandchildren, the loss of their super-grandpa was their first experience with grief. Though they were too young to fully understand the complexities of his passing, they were deeply affected by his absence. David and Sarah used this as an opportunity to teach their children about the importance of health and the value of taking care of one another. The family began involving Emma and Noah in their new routines, encouraging them to help prepare healthy meals, and join in on family walks. They also taught the children simple mindfulness practices, such as taking deep breaths when they felt overwhelmed. These small changes not only helped the children cope with their grief, but also instilled in them lifelong habits of self-care and awareness. John's passing also brought the family closer together. In the past, their busy schedules had often kept them from spending quality time with one another. But in the wake of their loss, they realized how precious their time together truly was. They began making a conscious effort to prioritize family connections, creating new traditions and strengthening their bonds. One of the first changes they made was to prioritize family meals. In the past, meals had often been rushed, with everyone eating at different times or distracted by phones and television. But now, they made a commitment to sit down together for dinner every evening. These meals became a time to share stories, reflect on their day, and support one another. Mary, who had always loved cooking, found joy in preparing meals for her family. She began teaching Emma and Noah some of John's favorite recipes, passing down his love of simple, wholesome food. The act of cooking and eating together became a way to honor John's memory and celebrate the values he had instilled in them. The garden, once a place of sorrow, became a source of healing and connection for the family. At first, Mary couldn't bring herself to step outside, overwhelmed by the memories of John. But with time, she found comfort in tending to the plants he had loved so much. The family began working in the garden together, turning it into a living tribute to John. They planted new flowers and vegetables, adding their own touches while preserving the essence of what John had created. For Emma and Noah, the garden became a place of learning and play, just as it had been when John was alive. For Mary, it was a way to feel close to her husband, a reminder that his spirit lived on in the beauty of the earth. In addition to honoring John's memory, the family also created new traditions to celebrate their time together. They started taking weekend trips to nearby parks and nature reserves, inspired by John's love of the outdoors. These outings became a way to reconnect with nature and with one another, creating memories that would last a lifetime. Perhaps the most profound change the family experienced was a shift in their mindset. John's passing had taught them the importance of living in the moment and appreciating the simple joys of life. They began practicing mindfulness and gratitude, finding ways to stay present and cherish the time they had together. For Mary, mindfulness became a way to cope with her grief and find peace in her daily life. She began each morning with a few moments of quiet reflection, sitting by the window with a cup of tea and watching the sunrise. She also started keeping a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things she was thankful for each day. These practices helped her focus on the positive aspects of her life and find strength in the love of her family. David and Sarah also encouraged Emma and Noah to practice gratitude. Each evening before bed, they would take turns sharing something they were thankful for. These moments of reflection helped the children develop a sense of appreciation for the world around them and the people in their lives. As a family, they began to approach each day with a renewed sense of purpose. They made an effort to slow down, to savor their time together, and to find joy in the little things, whether it was a walk in the garden, a shared meal, or a quiet moment of laughter. They realized that life was not about rushing from one task to the next, but about finding meaning and connection in the present moment. Above all, the family's transformation was rooted in their desire to honor John's legacy. They wanted to live in a way that reflected the values he had embodied: hard work, love, resilience, and gratitude. Though he was no longer with them, his spirit continued to guide them, shaping the choices they made and the lives they built. The garden became a symbol of John's enduring presence in their lives. Each plant they nurtured, each flower that bloomed, was a reminder of his love and care. They placed a small bench in the garden, engraved with the words, "In loving memory of John, a life well lived, a love well shared." It became a place where they could sit, reflect, and feel his presence. The family also made a commitment to share John's story with others, using his life as an example of the importance of health, family, and mindfulness. They spoke openly about the lessons they had learned, hoping to inspire others to make positive changes in their own lives. John's passing was a heartbreaking loss, but it also became a catalyst for growth and transformation. Through their grief, the family found strength, connection, and purpose. They learned to cherish the time they had together, to care for their health, and to live with gratitude and mindfulness. Though John was no longer with them, his legacy continued to shape their lives, reminding them to find beauty in the simple things and to live each day with love and intention. John's life, though marked by hardship and challenges, was a testament to the power of resilience, love, and the beauty of simplicity. His passing, while deeply painful for his family, became a moment of profound reflection and transformation. Through their grief, they found lessons that not only honored John's memory, but also inspired them to live more mindful, intentional lives. As they moved forward, they carried with them a message of hope, a reminder that even in the face of loss, there is an opportunity for growth, connection, and renewal. John's story serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of life. His sudden collapse and passing highlighted how easily the warning signs of declining health can be overlooked, especially when one is accustomed to a life of hard work and independence. For John, his determination to push through discomfort and his reluctance to slow down were rooted in a lifetime of resilience. Yet, these same traits ultimately contributed to his untimely death. For his family, this realization was both heartbreaking and eye-opening. They came to understand the importance of listening to their bodies and addressing health concerns before they became critical. John's passing taught them that strength is not just about perseverance, but also about knowing when to rest, when to seek help, and when to prioritize self-care. John's story is not unique. Many people, especially those who have spent their lives working hard for their families, fall into the same patterns of neglecting their health. His life and death serve as a call to action for others to pay closer attention to their well-being and to encourage their loved ones to do the same. It is a reminder that taking care of oneself is not a sign of weakness, but a necessary act of love for oneself and for those who depend on us. In the aftermath of John's passing, his family found strength in one another. Their shared grief brought them closer together, reminding them of the importance of family and the value of time spent with loved ones. They realized that while life is unpredictable and often filled with challenges, the bonds of family provide a source of comfort, resilience, and hope. One of the most profound lessons the family learned was the importance of cherishing the present moment. John had always found joy in the simple things: working in his garden, sharing meals with his family, and watching the sunset. His ability to find beauty in the everyday became an inspiration for his loved ones to slow down and appreciate the small joys in their own lives. The family began to prioritize spending quality time together, creating new traditions and strengthening their relationships. They learned that while they could not change the past, they could honor John's memory by living fully in the present and making the most of the time they had with one another. John's story is a reminder to all of us to nurture our relationships and to never take our loved ones for granted. In a world that often feels rushed and disconnected, his life serves as an example of the importance of slowing down, being present, and showing gratitude for the people who matter most. While John's passing was a source of immense pain, it also became a catalyst for growth and transformation. His family used the experience as an opportunity to reflect on their own lives, their habits, and their priorities. They recognized the ways in which they had been neglecting their health, their relationships, and their own well-being, and they made a conscious effort to change. Rather than allowing their grief to consume them, the family chose to channel their pain into positive action. They adopted healthier routines, strengthened their family bonds, and found ways to honor John's memory through their daily lives. This process of reflection and growth not only helped them heal, but also gave them a renewed sense of purpose. John's story illustrates that even in the face of loss, there is an opportunity for growth. Grief, while painful, can also be a powerful teacher. It can inspire us to reevaluate our lives, to make changes that align with our values, and to live in a way that honors those we have lost. For John's family, this process of transformation became a source of hope and healing, and it is a message that resonates with anyone who has experienced loss. John's life may have ended, but his legacy lives on in the hearts and actions of his family. The lessons he taught them about hard work, love, and the importance of finding joy in the simple things continue to shape their lives. His garden, once a place of sorrow, has become a symbol of renewal and growth, a living tribute to the man who nurtured it with so much care. For Mary, David, Sarah, Emma, and Noah, John's memory is a constant presence in their lives. They see him in the flowers that bloom in the garden, in the laughter they share around the dinner table, and in the values they strive to uphold. His life, though cut short, was a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring strength of love. John's story is not just a personal one, it is a universal reminder of the impact one life can have. His family hopes that by sharing his story, they can inspire others to live with greater awareness, gratitude, and intention. They want others to see that even in the face of loss, there is hope, and that the lessons we learn from those we love can guide us long after they are gone. As the family reflects on John's life and the changes they have made in the wake of his passing, they are filled with a sense of hope. They know that life is fragile and unpredictable, but they also know that it is filled with opportunities for connection, growth, and joy. John's story is a reminder that even in the face of loss, there is beauty to be found in the love of family, in the lessons we learn, and in the memories we carry with us. The family's journey is a testament to the power of living with intention. They have learned to prioritize what truly matters, to let go of the things that do not serve them, and to approach each day with gratitude and purpose. They know that life is not about perfection but about finding meaning in the moments we are given. John's story is a call to action for all of us. It is a reminder to take care of our health, to nurture our relationships, and to live with mindfulness and gratitude. It is a reminder that while we cannot control the length of our lives, we can control the way we live them. And it is a reminder that even in the face of loss, there is always hope. John's life was a gift to those who knew him, and his passing was a profound loss. But through their grief, his family found strength, connection, and purpose. They learned to honor his memory by living in a way that reflected his values, and they found hope in the lessons he left behind. As they look to the future, they carry with them the knowledge that John's spirit will always be a part of their lives. His story is a reminder that even in the face of loss, there is beauty to be found, and that the love we share with others is the greatest legacy we can leave behind. In the end, John's life was not just a story of hard work and resilience, it was a story of love, hope, and the enduring power of family. And that is a story worth sharing, a message worth carrying forward, and a legacy worth honoring. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Your support and interest mean the world to me and are the biggest motivation to keep creating quality content. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, don't forget to hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any future updates. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.